You ever seen a woman lose 40 years of power in less than 20 minutes? Let me paint you a picture. The sound of Sharon White sobbing echoed through the packed community center, and when the judge's gavel came down for the last time, you could feel something shift like the first crack in a dam about to burst. 37 years, she'd ruled this neighborhood like it was her own personal kingdom, and in just one emergency HOA meeting, it all came crashing down. I was sitting in the back row as she stumbled out, hair all frazzled, mascara streaking down her cheeks, heels clicking just a little too fast. The same woman who'd terrorized homeowners for decades couldn't even look at me when she passed. And honestly, she shouldn't have. See, Sharon made one mistake when I moved into 1247 Maple Grove Lane. She thought I was just another pushover she could bully into submission. What she didn't know is that I'm Aaron Taylor Municipal Code Enforcement for 15 years. And if there's one thing I know, it's how to deal with petty tyrants. When you spend your days writing citations and navigating local laws, you get pretty good at spotting the ones who think they're untouchable. The house next to Sharon's had been on the market for 8 months. It was perfect priced right and completely up to code. The realtor looked nervous when she told me the last 3 buyers mysteriously backed out. I should have caught on, but hey, sometimes neighborhoods just don't click. It only took Sharon 24 hours to show me why. Before I get into how I took her little empire apart, tell me where you're watching from. I want to see who's dealing with their own HOA tyrants. And hit that like button because trust me, you'll want your neighbors to see what happened to Sharon White. Let's go back to my first Saturday. I'm unpacking boxes in my garage when I hear this click, click, click like the Grim Reaper in Sensible Heels. Sharon shows up, powder blue blazer, clipboard in hand, standing maybe 5'4", but acting like she owned the entire zip code. "You must be the new resident," she says, not even pretending to welcome me. "I'm Sharon White, president of the Maple Grove Homeowners Association. We need to discuss several violations I've observed. Violations I hadn't even finished moving in yet." She rattles them off. My moving truck was parked too long, $50 boxes visible in my garage, $50 lawn unmowed for 7 days, another $50. I blinked. "Ma'am, I just moved in yesterday. Those boxes are moving boxes." She scribbles, "No exceptions for new residents. Ignorance of the rules is not a defense. Citations will arrive in 3 days payment due in 10 penalties at 15% per month." She had that look, that little glint you see in someone who just loves wielding power. I asked for the covenants. She smiled like a cat cornering a mouse. "Available for purchase at my home office, cash only Tuesdays and Thursdays." Of course. I'd met plenty of bureaucrats, but Sharon was different, almost professional in her pettiness. So that afternoon, I went down to the county clerk and pulled every document ever filed for Maple Grove. The original covenants from 1987 were fine basic stuff. But attached were 43 amendments, each one more restrictive, every single one with Sharon's signature. She'd been tightening the screws for nearly 4 decades, grass down to 2 3/4 inches, parking so complicated it'd make a traffic cop weep, even storage rules for things visible through your windows. But here's the kicker. A bunch of these amendments were never properly ratified. No homeowner votes, no proper meetings, just her signature and maybe 1 or 2 board members, all claimed under emergency powers. I started documenting everything. Every morning, Sharon did her compliance patrol at exactly 7:30, walking the block with a measuring tape camera and even a magnifying glass. She snapped photos of trash cans, cars parked 6 inches off hoses, not wound right. I watched her photograph Mrs. Henderson's mailbox from 3 angles, like she was collecting evidence for a federal case. By Thursday, I had my first stack of violations, $150 for the truck box's lawn, plus a new one for my house numbers being 1 inch too low. The notice even had a photograph with red ink measurements. For most folks, these letters were scary enough to pay up. Me, I decided it was time to show up to an HOA board meeting. The first Tuesday, I walked into the community center, just Sharon, a folding table, a stack of papers, and her gavel. No other board members, no residents. "Where is everyone?" I asked. "Board meetings are typically sparsely attended," she replied, not looking up. "Most residents let the board handle business without interference. According to the covenants, the board should have 5 elected members. Where are the other 4? I pressed. Her jaw twitched. "We've had some resignations. I'm working to fill vacancies." "Right." I pulled out my phone. "For the record, state your name and position." She bristled. "Recording is not permitted. Actually, by state law, residents can record HOA meetings under the Open Meetings Act." She looked at me like I'd sprouted horns. "Fine. Sharon White, president, treasurer, and secretary. Temporarily." I'd bet money it had been years since anyone else held a title. I asked for the minutes. $5 per copy, cash only. I cited the law. She turned pink. "I'll need to consult our attorney." She didn't have one, and we both knew it. That month I kept every violation notice. 14 separate citations totaling over $600, including my favorite excessive bird activity due to unauthorized bird feeding. She'd spent hours documenting the birds in my yard, counting cardinals. Obsessive, right? But I started documenting her house, too. Her mailbox 6 inches too close to the street, sprinklers causing runoff, a garden gnome half an inch too tall. I took photos, measurements, timestamps. If she wanted to play games, I'd show her how it's done. When I filed formal complaints against her for her own violations, she hit back fast. A hand-delivered letter warning me that frivolous complaints would mean fines for harassment. Slipped under my door at 600 a.m., no less. The irony was almost poetic. She just admitted in writing that her own rules, when turned on, her felt like harassment. And just like that, she'd opened the door to her own downfall. I started recording every HOA meeting, her approving budgets for herself, voting herself a raise, inventing new violation categories. It was surreal, but it built a paper trail. The real breakthrough came in month 3, when Sharon tried to flex a little too hard. "I'm calling a special assessment," she barked, banging her gavel. "Every homeowner must pay $500 for emergency landscaping improvements." "What common areas?" I asked. "We don't have any. Entrance medians and street signage," she bluffed, even though those belonged to the city, and I had the records to prove it. "The board has determined." "What board? You're the only one here." Her voice rose, composure cracking. "I have emergency authority." Got it all on tape. In most states, that's called theft by deception. I filed formal complaints with the state AG, the DA, and the BBB, then mailed copies to every homeowner in the subdivision. 37 families, all suddenly realizing they'd been scammed. My phone rang non-stop. Folks who'd paid hundreds in fines for fake violations, fence too high, then fined for fixing it without approval. New street lights that never appeared. Holiday lights that were actually on their neighbor's house. Everyone had a story. We called a real HOA meeting. 68 people showed up, the most the room had seen in years. Sharon strolled in late, clipboard in hand, only to find the crowd waiting. "This meeting is not authorized," she shouted. "Only the board can call meetings." "That's why we're here," I said. "To elect a new board." She turned ghostly white. I'd done my homework. We had signatures from 31 families, plenty for a special election. The vote was quick. Sharon got exactly 1 vote, her own. The new board voided every fine and filed criminal charges. Turns out what Sharon was doing wasn't just annoying, it was actual fraud. The DA took it seriously. The prosecutor, Maria Santos, laid out 5 years of Sharon's schemes, every bogus fine, every threat, every dime deposited into her own account. There were audio recordings, bank records, even written admissions. Sharon's lawyer tried to argue she was just overzealous, but the jury didn't buy it. Less than 2 hours to return a guilty verdict on 17 counts of fraud and 1 of attempted extortion. Judge Morrison hammered her for it. You turned a community organization into your own profit center. Sharon got 2 years probation, 300 hours of community service, and had to pay back over 43 grand. She was banned from ever holding HOA office again. The aftermath was glorious. The new board rewrote the ridiculous amendments: grass height back to 4 inches, common sense parking. No more bird feeder police. Sharon tried to sell her house, but no one wanted to buy from a convicted fraudster. Took 8 months and 30 grand under asking. The best part: 6 months later, I got a letter from her new neighborhood's HOA. Thank you for your documentation. Sharon White is ineligible to run for office here. I framed that letter next to my bird feeder violation. Now the neighborhood is actually a community. People talk over fences. Kids leave bikes in driveways. Nobody cares if your garden gnome is 7 inches tall. The board meets monthly meetings, or open minutes are free, and everyone gets a say. Property values went up. Realtors even advertise the harassment-free HOA. I still get messages from people dealing with their own Sharons asking how to fight back. My answer: document everything, learn the rules, and never let a bully convince you their power is absolute. And if you're dealing with your own clipboard tyrant, remember their authority is only as real as you let it be. Sharon's legacy isn't some rule book. It's a neighborhood finally free to live like human beings. So, what do you think? Is there such a thing as a good HOA president, or are they all doomed to become little dictators with a measuring tape? Drop your story in the comments and let me know what's the wildest HOA rule you've ever heard. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your own experience. Someone out there needs to know these clipboard bullies can be beaten. You just have to stand up, speak up, and let the sun shine in.